Coming up this week on Sporting Journal Radio.
If you want to know what the big guys are going to do in 2 years, look what we're going to do in the next 6 months.
You've been teasing this new show because of the problems.
You choke it like lead or halfway between lead and steel because the hardness is there.
Broadcasting on the Sporting Journal Radio Network, wherever you get your podcasts or watch on YouTube.
Fish on right now.
Well, we're here at the 2024 Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic, presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. And our guest now is Jeremy Smith. I fish, I hunt, and always will.
It's just to look out for your everyday hunter, angler, and trapper that's out there.
A Fish on Forever production. This is Sporting Journal Radio. Hey, Dan, we have an exclusive this week.
Big deal. We didn't expect it, but we got it.
Brandon Cerecke from Boss is going to join us, and we didn't know he was going to make the announcement of what new shell is coming from Boss Shotshells, but he did. He's telling us. We're going to find out.
You're going to have to wait about 11 minutes to find out.
We're going to tell you what it is. So Boss has gone through some tough times with supply chain issues during COVID, of course, and now with tariffs and dealing with importing bismuth and things like that. So Brandon, the shell wizard he is, went into the laboratory and started testing out some different combinations of different materials, and he's got something that he's really excited about. In fact, he's mentioned it in previous social media posts about how this is his new favorite load, and it literally could replace a lot of the things that Boss has offered in the past. It could be a game changer. What is it? We're going to find out coming up later in the show with Brandon from Boss. I'm pretty excited about that, Dan.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff, and I wish I would have asked him a couple questions about it because we're seeing supply chain issues and tariffs and political trade war stuff affect the hunting ammunition side. I think it's going to be a thing on the fishing side too. I don't know what the world of tungsten is going on, but I do know that bismuth is being used by some companies now. So if these metals aren't available, I've heard rumors that there could be some significant shortages of products this winter, especially for ice fishing stuff. And one quote I heard was not that it'll be a hard thing to find new product, it's that there will not be any new product. So wild times might be ahead of us here in the outdoor world.
Man, between the COVID and the big boost that the outdoor industry had, and then the mass production because so many people were spending time outdoors, so then the bubble burst and coming back down to reality, and then the supply chain and this and that. It's like the Wild West out there right now, Dan.
Yeah. Well, between that and then just the changing in marketing strategies and how the world works, the world has changed tremendously. And now we're kind of getting into a rabbit hole at the beginning of the show here, but right. I just graduated from college not too long ago. It was 4 years ago, and I have a marketing degree. And a lot of what they taught me in college is about irrelevant marketing. Obviously you have some of the same principles obviously still apply, but the world of where, the places you're marketing, it's completely different now. It's changed so much and so fast, and we're all trying to keep up.
The internet first changed everything, of course. Now AI is starting to change things again.
Yeah. And people don't even know if we're real right now or AI made.
We're definitely real. And
why do you have 3 ears?
We're going to keep it just none of your business. We're definitely going to keep it that way, and we're going to talk to Brandon what it's like and how the internet has changed things in the ways that it allows you to be direct to consumer. You can eliminate some of the middlemen. You can change the way some of the costs and the fee structures are out there, and then of course find out what is moving. In fact, it's funny, Dan. They've been teasing this announcement, this change with Boss coming up now for a couple of months, and they've been ramping it up. And even as we're getting ready for this interview, I was talking to Dirk, and he's like, I don't know how much we're ready to talk about, and what's going to be announced. So I prepared this whole list of questions for the interview. I did all this research, and 2 minutes into the interview, it was clear all of that was going right out the window.
Well, that's why people think it's AI, because he still did a good job. So it's so good it's fake.
It was fake, yeah, for sure. It was not me doing it. But we'll talk to Brandon in a little bit. Also, Joe Henry is back from Lake Erie. We're going to talk about his trip and, of course, get a fishing report from Lake of the Woods as well. And it's Tiny's birthday, so we got a little tribute for Tiny coming up. Plus, some new deer regulations for Minnesota. And what is the fall flight in North Dakota going to look like? We'll tell you. But first, who are the sponsors this week on the show, Dan?
Lake of the Woods Tourism. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital of the world. Plan a trip for the summer or fall or winter at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. On X Hunt, see private land boundaries, offline maps, and more. Save 20% off a new membership with the code SJR20. Haybale Heights Campground and Resort. Fish Devils Lake this summer at Haybale Heights. Learn more at haybaleheights.com. Tasman Lake Lodge kept world record lake trout and giant pike at Saskatchewan's Tasman Lake. Learn more at tasmanlake.com. Prairie Sportsman, the new season is over, but you can watch episodes anytime at the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel. And Trails End Outfitters, trophy bear, walleye, and whitetails in Saskatchewan. Visit trailsendoutfitters.com.
And if you'd like to be a sponsor on the show, let us know. We've got a couple opportunities for you to be a part of what we do here at Fish Hunt Forever and Sporting Journal Radio as well. And, of course, we had another great trip to Tasman Lake Lodge this year. You can see the first episode of the Tasman TV episodes at the Tasman Lake Lodge YouTube channel. Check it out and find out how you can book a trip to catch trophy lake trout, northern pike in northwest Saskatchewan at tasmanlake.com. I want to plug just Prairie Sportsman as well, too, for your Minnesota viewers out there. There's a couple opportunities to watch some shows on TV. Of course, you can go anytime to the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel, but if you like watching them on TV, Saturday on TPT Live from the Twin Cities at 3:30 p.m., we visit Kurt Pahowski. And we learn about his family history in fishing and his commercial fishing. Like, what did he tell us, Dan? They had 1 million pounds that they netted one day or something?
Yeah, well, it took them multiple days. They had so many fish. I think it took them multiple days to pull all those nets up.
That's right.
But it was one day, one net set. I don't know. It's not one cast, or I don't know what do you call it. But
yeah.
But kind of cool how they were catching carp and other rough fish, and they were selling those to like McDonald's. Like the fillet of fish could have been, a carp back in the day. Now it's
from Big Stone or Travers.
Yeah, somewhere in western Minnesota. Now it's fish out of the ocean, and trawlers are killing a bunch of salmon and bycatch trying to get your fillet of fish. So don't eat the fillet of fish.
That is a whole nother podcast. What's going on with the trawlers for sure. We also learn about the Clean Up the Lake project that has been ongoing at Mille Lacs, as well as Keep It Clean. There's some divers that went out there and filmed underwater of picking out stuff that's probably been sitting in that lake for years and years and years. You can see that this Saturday on TPT Life. Then Saturday on Lakeland PBS at 2:30, you can watch Prairie Sportsman. And then, of course, on the Minnesota channel. So, Dan, I thought it was Mondays and Wednesdays on the Minnesota channel. I think it's also Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Like, 4 times a day.
Send it.
So there's at least 12 airings of Prairie Sportsman every week on the Minnesota channel. So midnight, 6 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. Friday, Monday, Wednesday. Check it out. All right, time for headlines. Headlines. All right, headlines are brought to you by Trails End Outfitters on Tobin Lake, offering spring black bear hunting, fall whitetail, and guided fishing on Tobin Lake. You can also rent the lodge and bring your own boat during the summer and chase big walleyes and pike. Learn more at trailsendoutfitters.com. And we've got a whitetail hunt coming to the Fish Hunt Forever YouTube channel from our time up at Trails End last fall. It's coming soon. All right, this deer season in Minnesota, the DNR has simplified how to buy a firearms deer license. Now, Dan, we don't hunt down in the southeast too much, so this didn't really affect us a whole lot, but there's now one statewide firearms deer license. The B season license has been eliminated, and a statewide license is valid during both the statewide firearms A season and the late southeast B season.
Can you buy an electronic version? Nope, sure can't.
I haven't heard anything about the app yet. For the 2025 season, 103 deer permit areas have kept the same designation as the previous season. 2 DPAs have lower bag limits to reduce the harvest of antlerless deer with the intent of increasing deer populations, while 25 have increased bag limits. So I've heard a little bit about some areas going to, like, say, 3 antlerless or 3 deer this year. So probably a buck and a couple antlerless, I suppose. Not everybody is excited about that, as expected. Some people don't like change, but I didn't notice which ones lowered bag limits. But check your deer permit area. There may be some changes for the upcoming season. Archery beginning Saturday, September 13th. I can't wait. I'm excited to go sit in a tree. And then firearms November 8th, of course, and then muzzleloader starting November 29th.
Too bad your tree fell over the other day.
Yeah, I suppose we don't have a picture of that right now, but if you follow me on social media at all, you probably saw the picture One of my stands is now laying outside. That's the second time I've had a tree that a stand is in come down.
Yeah, well, we had some pretty good storms rip through this area and a lot of the state. And your tree stand just happened to be one that, but you got to pick a better tree, apparently. Apparently you're not very good at that.
So here's a little bit of storm footage that we filmed the other day. This was after my tree stand tree came down. Yeah,
well, that storm, not to go off topic here, but that storm that took your tree down kind of just came out of nowhere. It wasn't even in the forecast. We were forecasted for storms later that night, and then this thing just popped up middle of the afternoon and was the worst one we got in the 2 days. So kind of wild how the weather people still couldn't get it right.
Yeah, it was crazy. It came up, it was real bad, and then they said it was going to be real bad that night or worse, and it wasn't for us anyway.
Yeah, Iowa got hammered.
And then the next day, it was supposed to be real bad for us, and it wasn't for us bad, but everybody else. There were other places that got hit pretty hard too. So been a wild year for storms so far. All right. Well, it's been wet, and that means more ducks. And in North Dakota, duck brood numbers were up 28% from 2024, but State Game and Fish Department migratory game bird biologists expect a fall flight of ducks similar to last year. The fall flight forecast is based on data from the May breeding duck survey and the July duck brood survey, both conducted annually by game and fish biologists. It was the 78th annual breeding duck survey conducted in May, and it indicated that it was the 33rd highest on record. So should see some ducks over in the Dakotas. That doesn't surprise me.
That's only some of the two best states to hunt in the whole country.
Tiny turned 5. It was funny. I was talking to some people today that have known Tiny for a while, and they're like, "Oh, what
5 years?
What was it? Her second birthday?" Nope, she turned 5, and here is a little. Oh yeah, there it is, right there. We're watching it already. So happy birthday, Tiny puppy! I love that shot right there of her tackling that snow goose. That was so awesome because we had that GoPro out in the field. Didn't even realize, I think, that we got it on camera right away. Watching it back, she just tackled that snow goose. And there she is with Mika at the vet, getting ready to see Rachel. And that right there, Tiny is disrupting a Sitka photo shoot at Corey Loeffler's. Mika was stealing carrots. They're trying to film Corey and his family picking carrots out of the garden, and Mika keeps stealing them. There she is wearing some relevant sunglasses. And then I think this is last fall with Tiny and Mika both in the blind. Mika's final fall. And I decided to it was just me and you out there, and I brought them both out. And then, there she is. Just making herself comfortable. Don't worry about me, Tiny. Just make sure you're comfortable. But happy birthday, Tiny puppy. Thank you, Corey Loeffler and DRC Calls for having that litter. That's where I got her from. So if you're looking for a puppy, get a hold of Corey. All right, Brandon Cerecke with Boss with a major announcement when we come back. Sick of eating tag soup? It's time to own your odds this fall with OnX Hunt, the GPS hunting app trusted by millions of hunters. Now you'll have access to nationwide public and private land ownership information, waypoints, optimal win for each stand, tracks, and much more. All at your fingertips. Go to onxmaps.com/hunt and use code SJR20 at checkout to receive 20% off your membership. That's code SJR20. All right, we're going to talk ammunition now as hunting season is right around the corner. I'm getting excited about it. We're starting to see a lot of the outdoor sport shows focus on hunting seasons. It's not that far away. It's my favorite time of year. And there's been some changes in the industry, including in the ammunition world. And Brandon Cerecke from Boss is going to join us right now to talk about what's going on over there. Brandon, Boss came out and just kind of exploded. And then it seems like you guys just keep getting handed one challenge after another. I want to kind of talk about that a little bit and talk about the challenges you're facing right now. But let's just start with one thing, and that's the mission to be non-toxic. Why is that important? I mean, we know about some of the benefits to the environment and to people and animals and all of that other stuff. Why was it important to you?
Well, the biggest thing is, I grew up working in a factory, and factory work can be dangerous. And one of the big things is keep your workers safe, keep yourself safe. And I don't have any intentions of leaving a factory floor. And if I can keep lead away from myself, my employees, out of my building, out of the environment that, in the property we own, and then also out in the environment once the stuff is shot, I think that's the the smart move to make. So really, it was kind of born out of being a waterfowl company. Lead wasn't something we were even allowed to entertain, and we were so busy the first few years making everything out of bismuth that we couldn't even make a target load or any lead loads if we wanted to. So when that time kind of came where you get caught up, you got inventory on the floor, you're looking for the next thing, we wanted to branch out and do some dove, do some upland that maybe was like a lower cost shell, and then your target loads. We decided to stay the heck away from lead for the reasons I mentioned earlier, as far as factory safe and good for the environment. So.
Well, you even took it the next step, took it a step further with some of the materials that you're using with wads that'll help break down in the environment.
Yeah. So theoretically, the additives that we put into our wads, we use a low density polyethylene, which high density polyethylene is so dense, and so the molecule or the polymer chains are so tight that it doesn't really break down very well in the environment. Low density polyethylene, which is everything like your trash bags and like maybe your Solo cups, that type of thing. Maybe not like the cups I'm drinking out of now, your softer plastics. Those will break down on their own because there's more space between those polymer chains. And what we do with our wads, we add a product called Biotech, which creates more open space between those polymer chains, and the material that fills those spaces acts as like what we call it bug food. So your microbes in the soil or in the water, anything devoid of oxygen, those microbes will feed on those the additives and the spaces between, and then digestion of the plastic can occur. So you do get methane gas. There's no such thing as a free lunch when you're trying to be environmentally conscious or eco-friendly or engineering anything. There's always compromises. So with this plastic, what it does create methane gas, but what it doesn't do is break down into microplastics. In aquatic environments, I think it's safe to say that microplastics are a bigger hazard than even like whole wads or hulls that are left behind. So that's kind of what we decided to go with LDPE to make the wads. And we've had to add additives and make different melt flow indexes, everything else to make it stiff enough and tough enough to handle the payloads that we're sending down barrels.
I think that's a great move from a company perspective, for one thing, and you see people that are making a more concerted effort now to pick up their empties. It's still, sometimes it's hard when you're walking through real heavy cover and things like that, or if you're shooting over water, sometimes they get away from you a little bit, but people are getting better at cleaning up after themselves. But boy, the wads, good luck, good luck trying to pick up all of those.
Right. It's there's no such thing. I always say, like, perfection's a pursuit, and doing better is the same thing. No one's going to go out there, become a duck hunter, and do everything right 100% of the time. But as long as you can improve on whatever you're doing, whether it's, calling or setting decoy spreads or picking up after yourself, as long as you're always wanting to get better, then, you're on the right path. And that's, something that we all believe firmly in here at Boss.
All right. Well, let's talk about what's going on right now, because copper-plated bismuth really was kind of your bread and butter. What's going on with bismuth right now?
Well, you can't get it. Basically, what happened is, this goes back to February, when right before the trade war started. China, which controls about 80% of the bismuth market in the world, 80 to 90, 70 to 90, anywhere in there. The remainder, outside of maybe 2 to 5%, is also controlled by Asian markets. Excuse me. So what happened was, China decided to cut the entire world off from the supply of bismuth, and then they ended up influencing the other Asian nations to do the same. So at that time, Boss was accounting for probably 50% of the United States consumption of bismuth metal. And we were roughly 30% of North America's consumption. So we were using a lot of metal, and that impacted us majorly hard. So China says we're not sending any more. We picked up the rest of what we had in a warehouse available to us, and that was, we still have a little bit of that left. But then what was available here in the U.S. ended up going from $4 to $5 a pound up to $40 a pound. And now that a lot of manufacturers have gone away from it, the only people that are using bismuth are largely like some of your solder manufacturers, and then a lot of like pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, that whole thing. All your foundries, galvanizers, Boss, we've all gone away from it. So the demand has dropped. The supply has not improved, but the price is now settled somewhere around $20 a pound. Well, for $20 a pound, no one's going to be able to afford to shoot bismuth. It just doesn't make economical sense. So we're pivoting away from it. And the metal that we're going to start using now is going to be copper. When we saw the need to have to go a different route, I said, copper is a $4 a pound metal. We can make shot out of copper. So let's call up some wire houses. Should probably cost maybe $6 a pound, $7 a pound for them to take copper and make wire out of it, and we'll process it from there. We were getting quotes back, in the neighborhood of $15 a pound. So I said, well, that's not going to work. So let's just make our own copper wire, and that's what we're going to do. And we have all the foundry equipment. We tried firing everything up actually this morning, and we failed miserably. So now we've got roughly a month until the season starts, and we're still trying to figure out this process, but we're going to work diligently to figure it out and scale production. So we've got small batch runs, but as far as like manufacturing large scale, we're we're making the best of what we can, man. But it's, if it were, nothing here comes easy. Nothing in my life has ever come easy, I don't think. So this is just
right.
One more thing.
Well, you had supply chain issues with COVID and now tariffs. Oh
yeah.
I feel like you're a guy, everybody would love to just make a product and just sell millions of it and sit back and enjoy life. But I feel like you're kind of a guy that likes to tinker anyway. So I know nobody wants the challenges, but I feel like you enjoy trying to figure things out like that.
Well, I'm a fierce competitor too. And I jokingly said internally, and I might get loud about this and I might catch hell for it, but if you want to know what our competitors, the big competitors, we have good relationships with some of the middle, size manufacturers like us. If you want to know what the big guys are going to do in 2 years, look what we're going to do in the next 6 months. And I use that as motivation to try and make it as difficult for those guys to compete with what we do, because not many OEMs are going to go to the lengths that we're going to go to be able to deliver product at an economical price. We've got deep respect for the relationships we've built with our customers since 2018. And if it weren't for that, you guys know there's stuff in the background that we're not even going to talk about that's gone on. That's enough to make me say, I'm done with this. I'll find something better to do, because this ammunition thing isn't for me. If it weren't for the customers, and it weren't for direct to consumer, I'd have been done with this 2 years ago, honestly. But again, I love a good challenge. I love to compete. And I want to make it hard for the OEMs to keep up with what we're going to do. And I think until someone's willing to build a foundry and start taking raw copper and making round balls out of it, then good luck.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think, and you've been teasing this new material for a little while now, that I built a lot of my questions for this interview around the tease. But is copper, is that what we're talking about? And we need to take a break.
Yeah.
Is that what we're gonna start talking about copper? Okay. All right. Brandon Cerecke with Boss talking about what's new. We'll talk more about it when we come back on Sporting Journal Radio. Now is the time to start thinking about chasing big walleyes on Devil's Lake. Get on the fish at Haybale Heights Campground and Resort. Haybale Heights makes it easy for you to make memories on legendary Devil's Lake with guided fishing and lodging packages. Or bring your own boat and rent one of their cabins on East Bay. Haybale Heights offers a private marina, fish cleaning station, and the opportunity to relax and enjoy your bucket list trip to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. To book your trip, visit haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. We're back. Brandon Cerecke from Boss is our guest right now. If you've been following Boss, or if you're on the Boss fan page on Facebook, you've been seeing that Brandon's been hard at work dealing with some of the changes and the tariffs and the political climate that we're in right now. And boy, we don't need to go down the road of politics, but being in Michigan, it sure sounds like a lot like being in Minnesota. So I'd assume that there's some additional challenges producing something like ammunition in a state like the ones that we live in. But you've been teasing this new show because of the problems with bismuth right now, and you've used copper a lot of copper plating. Is copper the new direction Boss is going?
It is. And actually copper's, I mean, just like when Boss started, bismuth wasn't new. Copper's not new. People have used it elsewhere in the world. It was approved by Fish and Wildlife Service in 2013. No one's done anything with it. So we said, let's try it. And looking at, like, let's just talk ballistics really quickly.
Sure.
It's 94% the density of bismuth. But it's about, depending on how you interpret the scales, it's 3 times harder than bismuth, but it's like 1/3 the hardness of steel. So you can still shoot it down fixed choke guns. Because it's harder, it doesn't deform as much at setback or when it goes through a choke. And because it stays rounder, it flies truer through the air. So it will track straighter, but more importantly, what it will do is it doesn't, the pellets don't separate as much because your velocity stays consistent due to less drag with every pellet. Bismuth and lead, you would get a more open pattern than you would with steel, primarily because of the drag effects that are created with not round projectiles flying through the air. And we noticed this back in 2022 when we shot a bunch of high-speed photography into ballistic gel. The first pellets would always go deeper. The pellets at the very end of the string would always go shallower. And it makes sense. The reason why they go shallower is because they're traveling slower. So they're traveling slower and they're also drifting. We get all that back with copper. And the first pattern that I ever shot with the stuff, I threw a 94% pattern at 40 yards with a full choke. So your total delivery is greater. And because you have less drag, even with a 94% density of bismuth, you're getting deeper ballistic penetration. So we're going to be able to get, significantly improved performance with a product that we're not going to have to rely on foreign trade wars, that is domestically sourced. And I got issues with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service not wanting to work with me on that. I got the Michigan DNR not willing to help me out very much. And then I just got a 50% tariff from the Trump administration on imported copper, which drives all copper prices up. So it's, like par for the course. You just take another one. But good Lord never gives you more than you can handle. That's what I'm a firm believer in. So we're going to keep on pushing through.
So that brings up a couple of questions. When you say the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service won't work with you, what do you mean by that?
Well, the current approved method with Fish and Wildlife Service, if you look at it, it requires a powder coating to be applied to the shell. And if you dig deeper, they want it to be loaded in a clear hull with a wad that's marked a certain way, and then you verify it with a black light. Well, that's locked up with a patent that was submarined. It got approved as such, and it's been patented. So there's a barrier there. If we use just pure copper, there's no intellectual property control on it, but the Fish and Wildlife Service requires a detection method, which very, very few COs that I know have the equipment in hand when they go out and check shells. Most times, if a guy's got a question, something looks weird, they crack it open, squeeze a pellet with a pair of pliers, and away they go. But that flies in the face of what the Fish and Wildlife Service wants people to do. So the technique has to be non-invasive. So when I contacted Fish and Wildlife, I told them, hey, okay, I can work with this. 2 days later, I came up with a test method that required a Amazon metal detector and a 3D printed device I calibrated for different size shells, different caliber shells, and am able to identify bismuth, lead, copper, tungsten, and steel, all your non-toxic shot with one tool. Fish and Wildlife says, whoa, man, this is cool, but it's going to take us 5 or 6 months to approve it. Okay, send me the criteria that you guys are going to use. Maybe we can run some parallel tests. I've done this before in my previous metal finishing company, qualifying products to mill specs. I can do a lot of the legwork. And now they're trying to come up with that criteria. Maybe this is as recent as yesterday. So technically, the Fish and Wildlife Service has already gone on record to say that copper is non-toxic, but yet they don't approve it to be used because there's no detection method. Well, I've got the detection method. They just need to approve it, but they're saying it's going to take 5 to 6 months plus on a time frame that we're not comfortable working with. So we've got, people all different areas of the country that are helping us get that in front of the right people at Fish and Wildlife. And what we tell them, like, hey, we're the nation, if not the world's largest 100% non-toxic ammunition manufacturer. Everything we've done from the start has been in the name of environmental conservatism, and we would hope that would carry some weight with Fish and Wildlife, but it's just government and red tape, man.
Yeah.
Just one thing after another.
Honestly,
so technically,
I thought 5 to 6 months was pretty quick for the U.S. government, to be honest with you.
Not in my world.
No,
we
of course not.
This thing. We developed this device, had all the prototypes done, had the instruction manual written, and have checked probably 500 different shells with 100% accuracy in 2 days. So 5-6 months, that ain't going to work for us because my customers can't wait. Our business can't survive 5 or 6 months of us not being able to sell a product.
Right.
So we're going to push this thing through.
Okay. So what's that new shell going to look like then? Is it going to be a mixture of copper?
No, we're hoping not. No, we just got to figure out our stuff, get everything rolling, and we're going to be running 24 hours a day in the factory.
And just getting it approved.
Yeah, like I said, the Fish and Wildlife Service has approved it. They've deemed it non-toxic, and you've got the scoring rubric that says, hey, the shot has to be this. Well, we know that there's a lot of people that are either making, selling, providing ammunition that probably isn't to the letter of the law with those specifications. And when you read the matrix, it even says like the test devices aren't regulatory. So what does that even mean? When a majority of your COs, both at the state level and federal level, don't have the necessary testing equipment anyway, and they're violating their own laws by opening up people's shells. It's dumb. The whole thing is stupid. I understand you need to have a framework for what is toxic, what's non-toxic. But if you can have a list of banned metals, just say, not allowed to have lead and call it good.
Yeah.
Or, but again, like no one's ever found any amount of nickel, any amount of copper, any amount of tungsten or steel, iron, any of those materials to be toxic. It's just lead. So why don't we simplify that whole thing within the Fish and Wildlife Service and say anything goes as long as there's less than 1% lead in the materials.
So instead of non-toxic, just no lead.
Well, then it is not toxic.
Right.
It is not toxic because all the high nickel content, all that, none of that has ever come back as showing is toxic. And no one's ever going to make a nickel pellet because the price is so darn expensive. So like you got to look at like what works.
And that's been the problem leading up to this, just to produce, for non-toxic stuff in general, a lot of it's been the cost of producing this stuff. And copper, I know, this is probably 5-6 years ago, we filmed an episode of Prairie Sportsman and did a copper bullet or a non-toxic bullet test for rifle bullets and the difference between lead versus copper and the retention and the splintering and just what it was amazing, the difference between the two and just how, but the biggest thing was going to be that cost and the mass producing and the equipment to produce all that. And if I understood correctly, you actually imported all the equipment to produce these shells as well too, so you're doing it all yourself?
Yeah, because, as far as the shot making equipment, that was all imported because America doesn't make that stuff anymore. The equipment that we're using, you cannot buy here in the United States. It doesn't exist unless you want to buy stuff that's 50 years old. So you end up doing this, hey, make America great again, right? We got a 60% tariff on the equipment we brought in to try to make stuff here.
Jeez.
It's just one thing after another, man. It's one. I'm not complaining. And we're going to get it figured out. We'll be a better company moving forward. But I want to make smart, strategic decisions that whatever we're going to invest in, this isn't going to work for 6 months. This is going to be the future of the company. And if bismuth ever comes back to a normal price, then we're going to add that back as a legacy product. But we're not counting on it.
So does that mean that War Chief essentially become a legacy product then? You mentioned that this could be your new favorite. Do you see this replacing, a lot of what you're doing?
We feel because most of our customers already know that War Chief is an elevated product. I'm almost confident we're going to continue this new iteration with copper as a War Chief product. Gotcha. And then the bismuth, the legacy shell will be bismuth if that ever comes back to normal. But again, after the last year of what we've dealt with, or 7 months, like I've got very limited interest in doing anything that's going to benefit the Chinese. Like none.
Right. So what do you think that's going to look like? I know some of the questions that you've maybe answered some of these already on social media, but people are worried a little bit about, vintage guns or older shotguns and choke tubes and things like that. What's this going to look like?
You're going to shoot it like you would lead. It's going to pattern tighter. So if you want to loosen your pattern, if it's too tight, then loosen your choke. So I guess, I hate to say it, like it almost patterns like our steel reserve, not other people's. It patterns like our steel, but you choke it like lead or halfway between lead and steel because the hardness is there, but it still is malleable. And if we find out that we can also control the patterns by altering the annealing effect that the copper has. So we can soften the copper even more after we roll it. So if you want it to be, hey, we want to shoot this in an old gun that patterns just like lead does, we can anneal the copper shot, soften it, and have it be probably as soft as Magnum lead, maybe a little harder, but it'll still be more malleable than it is after we make the balls. And again, this is all I know that is true because that's the way copper works. But as far as the manufacturing process, we've only done this in very small sample sets. So it's all an idea of mine, how I think it should work. And when it comes to making stuff, I'm pretty good at it. So I'm relatively confident that it's going to work. If not, we're in trouble.
And I'd assume this is going to be starting with 12 gauge, maybe 20. What kind of
we'll roll
sizes?
it out. It'll be 12, 20, 28. Right now, for starters, we've got dedicated machinery to make number 3s, 4s, and 5s. 3, 5, and number 4, and number 5 in that order is our most popular shell offerings. And you're always going to have the guys, hey, I want it in 2s, I want it in 1s, I need it in 7. We'll get to that point eventually, but this is going to be probably like COVID was, where anyone familiar with the brand, we put our inventory for what we're going to make that day up at 8 o'clock in the morning and it'd sell out, and then you keep working. That was all shortage based in manufacturing capacity, and unfortunately where we're at this year, it's going to be how much copper can we pour, how many BBs can we make, and it's less than perfect, man, but we jumped on this. So by the middle of March, all the equipment was on order being built. And to have all that stuff, to be able to re-engineer a manufacturing department, to have all that made internationally, shipped in and on the floor set up running in April, May, June, July, 3.5 months, that's kind of a testament to what we're good at.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of amazing, really. I mean, that honestly, the direct consumer model, of course, the internet has made that a little bit easier to accomplish. You are able to control some costs that way. You're also able to eliminate the middleman and some of the supply chain disruptions that can take place after production. And then you're also able to move like that. If you were one of the giant companies, it's a little bit harder to make those changes, midstream like that, or turn left when everybody else is going straight, or turn right.
And I don't know this to be 100% fact, but what I was told, when COVID hit, the big manufacturers were make their non-tox stuff in that spring to get it into distribution for summertime and out for late summer, early fall to retail. And I think part of the reason that we did so well and grew as much as we did in 2020 was because we were the only ones that were making ammo and shipping it on a daily basis. It was great for us. And we're still maintaining that customer base. We're trying to grow that again. But if there ever is a year to be okay with things being a little bit soft when it comes to how much we produce, I'm fine with it being this year, because we've just been dealing with so much stuff lately. All long term for the better, but you got to go. There's been some long, hard, lonely times here in this business, and hopefully that those days are behind us as we move forward here.
Well, I think it's important, and I feel like it's gotten more and more important to believe in a company. I mean, you have to believe in a product, but you also have to believe in a company and appreciate what they're doing. And particularly in your branch of the industry, I feel like you've been more transparent than anybody else out there, and hey, here's what's going on. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're working on. Here's where our supply is. This is what we got. And costs do this and costs go here and this and that. But how important is that to you to be, as a company, a brand that people can trust and believe in?
Well, I think I'm big on loyalty. And that's something that how would I say this? I do business with people that are loyal to me. I have relationships with people that are loyal to our brand, and myself, and I extend that same loyalty back, sometimes to a point of self-harm, but at the same time, that's how I was raised. It's who I am, and that's who this brand is kind of followed and turned into. So why not, right? Like, I was kind of like this nerdy kid that always would dig into the details. Like when I was buying four-wheeler parts or wanting to buy guns when I was a kid or things like that, I'd want to know how everything worked. And I liked being able to talk. And I was a kid that would call, I remember calling DG. It was an old exhaust pipe company that made two-stroke exhausts. I called them and asked them about product specifics and details when I was 13 years old. So I always really enjoyed being able to talk direct to these big businesses. And I always thought that if I could ever build a product that people would want, that was a consumable item, we're going to offer that same experience. And even if 99% of the people don't care about it, the 1% that do, that think like I do, are going to end up singing our praises, and this thing is going to be awesome. So by doing that, this is just what I know. It's who I am. I love sharing the story. I love communicating. I love being honest. And that message clearly resonates with a lot of people. And that's one thing that anybody can build a shotgun shell. Anybody can go get the same equipment that we're going to have, that we do have, and do exactly what we do. But what they can't do is carry that message forward and have the relationship with our customers like we do. And you see some of the big guys are trying to start doing that stuff, but it comes across as kind of flat and maybe almost disingenuous, because everybody knows who everybody is. And I think everybody who knows who Boss is knows that we're legit and that we have those conversations and relationships with people. And people that don't, they quickly learn that as soon as they pick up the phone and call us.
Well, I think it's great, and I wish you all the luck in the world and the success in the world. And have you announced? Has this been announced yet? Is this the first time you're announcing what's coming next?
Yeah, this is the first time. I think I've done it with our program members in private. Dirk might have told a couple guys last week in Oklahoma City.
Dang it, Dirk.
But no, I mean, as far as going in great detail, you're the first guy, and it's time for it. It's just honest. We're not going to say it's something that it's not. It's 100%, 99.99% copper, and guys are going to trash it. They're going to love it. Anything in between. And I'm telling you, it's something that it's one of those ideas. I wish I would have come up with this 5 years ago. Yeah. But you start looking at things on paper. Oh, well, it doesn't have the density, so let's go. We need density. But there's more to it than density. And people say, well, it's only 60% or whatever it is, more dense than 30% denser than steel. That's not enough. Well, it is enough. It's enough to make a big difference. So, and that's what we're going to do with this. And obviously, in a world where inflation, costs, everything runs away, we're going to bring costs down on this because it's going to cost us less to make. So there's that too.
Well, I appreciate you coming on here and talking about this with us. When do you think we'll be able to buy it? What do you think? I mean, you want to talk about some of the costs at all yet? Do you know that yet? What's this going to look like?
No, I want to be able to save guys. I'm hoping I can knock 10% off, give it to you at 10 off what current prices are. And in a perfect world, I would have stuff rolling next week, but I think it's going to take a little bit longer than that. So if you give me a month, I think we'll be in good shape.
Well, that's
Remember, we're not going to make very early goose, but at the same time, we've been telling our customers about this. I do have a little bit of bismuth left that I call it the Ready 5, on the aircraft carrier. He's the next one going. We do have a small amount of that if we run into a stumbling block where we have to delay this launch, we've got a little bit left that we can probably get us through the month of September. But come October, there's not going to be anything left. And we've told all our customers starting in January, February, March, hey, this is a pretty junk situation. Get in front of it, stock up. And people say, oh, we're just manipulating your buyers and selling. No, we're not. We're just being very honest. So people have been warned, at least the guys who are in our brand. They know, and a lot of them already have what they But I do know this: when something new comes out, they're all going to want it. So we got to make a lot of it.
Well, and you've got stuff in stock. So if people want to buy some Dove loads, they've got stuff for Dove. There's
tons of that.
There's shells out there if people need it for earlier in the season, and then when this becomes available, they can order it.
Right.
Very cool.
Right.
All right, Brandon Cerecke, boss. I appreciate the time today. Good luck with everything, and good luck this fall.
Awesome. Thanks, Brett.
If you want to catch a big walleye, go where the big walleyes are. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital of the world, with a variety of resorts and lodging facilities offering full-service fishing. Lake of the Woods is also home to sturgeon, sauger, perch, trophy pike, muskie, smallmouth bass, burbot, and more. Plan your trip to Lake of the Woods today. Go to lakeofthewoodsmn.com. That's lakeofthewoodsmn.com. All right, Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism joins us right now from the airport. Joe, how's it going?
Hey, Brett, I'm doing good.
I know you just came back from Lake Erie, and I want to talk to you about that and find out how that went over there. But first, let's talk about what's going on up at that big walleye factory in northern Minnesota.
Man, it's been a good year, man, a good summer. We know we have a lot of walleyes, but here's what's interesting. This time of year, normally the two techniques that prevail, which they still do, they're prevailing, pulling spinners with crawlers and trolling crankbaits. Now, those two techniques are catching tons and tons of walleyes. They're working great. The one technique that normally calms down a little bit during the warm water months of, July and August, particularly going into September, is jigging, and they jig all year long up in the northwest angle and up in that part of the lake where the islands are and stuff. But down in the big basin on the south end where the deep mud is, deep mud being that 30 to 35 feet of water, jigging really kind of tapers off. And this year it has not. I mean, jigging is hanging on strong too. So there are three techniques that are working. Pulling spinners with crawlers, pulling crankbaits, trolling crankbaits, and then, of course, vertical jigging over the side of the boat with a frozen emerald shiner. And all three techniques are catching fish. And I'll tell you, there are fish to be had. I mean, there are a lot of fish being caught. Limits are the norm. If you get with a captain or a charter boat or a guide, your chances go way up. If you want to bring your own boat, you'll figure it out. Just give it a little time. Talk to people in the resort, talk to people in the bait shops, look at Facebook, and then go fish and watch your electronics. You don't have to be by boats to catch walleyes on Lake of the Woods. It's not like all the walleyes are in the same spot. There's different schools of walleyes that are shallow. There's different schools of walleyes out in the basin roaming around, picking off emerald shiners and bloodworms and different hatches coming out of the mud. I mean, there's freaking walleyes and saugers everywhere. I will say this out of fairness. You have to be on fish to catch fish. So there is a lot of water that doesn't have any fish. It doesn't have any life. It has life, but maybe it doesn't have the big schools of walleyes. You got to find them. Boy, once you do, it's been pretty darn productive.
Lance Peterson just had his Warriors and Walleyes event, and Dan, I'm kind of throwing you at this mid-show here, but if you pull up his Facebook page, one of the guys caught a fish, and I don't know who caught it. I'd assume it was one of the older vets, but it was a tank. It was a really nice walleye that he posted on Facebook today or yesterday, I think. I can't remember. Whoa. Pretty recently. So obviously some big fish. And, and sometimes when you get into the summer like this, sometimes you see some walleyes get caught that are longer, that are a little bit skinnier. This one looked like it still had some pretty good thickness to it.
Yeah, and the fish we're catching, Brett, they're not little skinny little fish. That is a freaking thing.
Jeez.
I tell you what, that's awesome. He's a veteran. Tank walleye, a little bit senior gentleman. That's all awesome. There's only one thing I can say I don't love about the picture, but everything else is great.
Yeah, I agree, and I know exactly what you're going to say.
He needs new sweatshirt and pants.
It's the Green Bay Packers. Jeez. Yeah, for sure.
The fact that he's a veteran, we give him a free pass, and we love him to death.
I'm guessing, Dan, pull that back up for just a second. I'm guessing that's going up on the wall. And if you don't look like Dan, for you and I that spend so much time lake trout fishing now, if you just
I thought that was a lake trout.
It looks like a lake trout. It looks like a low to mid 30s inch lake trout.
Look at the size of the head on that thing. Look at the girth on that fish.
It looks like a spring walleye. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
Tank.
Really cool.
Well, good for him, and thank him for his service, of course. But it's Lake of the Woods, and that's not the only big fish. I hear somebody else got a big fish recently up there, Joe.
Yeah, you know what? I was communicating with John Thielen of Destination Fish, and of course, John Thielen's he's been in the media. He's been part of a Lindy Tackle brand ambassador for Pradco.
He's also more importantly been a guest on this show recently.
He has, and
just saying.
I tell you, and he enjoys you guys. I mean, before he became a guest, he's like, "Oh, I know those guys. I'll listen to those guys." So it was kind of cool to make that connection and bring him on the show. But John's a good guy. He's very down to earth. Has a lot of history, and just a good dude. Going to be in the Hall of Fame, the Minnesota Fishing Hall of Fame, coming up in September. And but John sent me a picture. He got another 30-incher out there doing some work on Lake of the Woods.
Damn.
And he texted me, he goes, "Yeah, Joe got another Dirty 30 Club once again, as we call it, the Dirty 30-inch Club." And, there are a lot of big fish in Lake of the Woods, and as your song this spring noted, if you want to catch a big fish, you have to go where the big fish are. And it sounds pretty basic, but we have a lot of big walleyes in Lake of the Woods. I just fished a tournament on Lake Erie, and the winning team made up of 5 charter captains, or five people. Most of them are charter captains. The winning bag of fish was 10 walleyes, and they go by inches. 10 walleyes for a 251.8 inch total. So that's a 25.1 inch walleye average. Now you rival that with what just happened on Lake of the Woods with the Minnesota Tournament Trail. And I think the top 6 bags of fish were an average of 10 pounds per fish. Now, per walleye, 10 pounds per walleye. So you're going from a 5-pound average per walleye. Yeah. In Lake of the Woods, it's a 10-pound average per walleye. Now,
oh boy,
nothing against Lake, and that is a little bit liberal.
The walleye capital face-off.
No, I'll tell you. I got my captain's license on Lake Erie when I worked down in Cleveland, and I go out there each year to fish a tournament because I have so many dear friends out there. And these guys and gals out there, they're passionate, just like we are up north. They are good anglers. They're freaking hammers, man. They're good anglers. They're dialed in with equipment. They fish hard. They are excellent, and the lake is excellent. But there's differences. Right now, Lake of the Woods has the edge when it comes to big fish. I would say Lake Erie has an edge when it comes to sheer numbers of fish. We get consistent ice every year, and we have ice fishing as a culture. They get ice once every 3 to 5 years, it seems, that they can actually go out and truly fish on. And even this year, when they got ice, they only had a short window to go out because winds blew the ice open and cracked it all up and made it dangerous. So there's just differences. Both are incredible walleye factories, and naturally we know people that are walleye nets that go to both. A lot of times I hear our friends going to Lake Erie in the spring, and they troll for those big walleyes, the big females coming off the beds and stuff. But I was just out there, Brett, for a tournament I do every year. We had 29 charter boats in the tournament this year. 5 anglers to a boat. Most anglers are charter captains, and it's casting only. There's 2 cultures on Lake Erie. Typically, there's a casting culture and there's a trolling culture. Your casters and your trollers, and this happens to be the casters. So we fish Canada waters, only Ontario waters, simply because when you go to the western basin of Lake Erie, it's only about 10 miles to the middle of the lake there, and that's where the line is. And there's deeper water to the north, and those walleyes this time of year, a lot of the bigger ones, they'll gravitate east or they'll gravitate north to a little bit deeper water. So we had a casting tournament and had a chance to go into a little bit of pre-fishing to get them dialed in, and then the tournament happened yesterday, and our fish weren't there. We had some fish dialed in, and we fished hard pre-fishing, and thought we had a good game plan. We went into it, and the fish weren't there, and then you find out your fish aren't there, and you got to go looking. And we were marking fish, all these different spots that we knew were good, fish of memories, but little sand humps out in the middle of 35, 40 feet of water, and little fingers that stick out from shoreline islands and that are out in deep water, and just the water is gin clear, and
I always thought it was, sorry, Joe, I always thought it was interesting that it's a casting only tournament out there, and obviously trolling is productive and probably relatively easy. So to up the difficulty a little bit for competitors, that's probably where the casting only component comes in. So what are you casting? Are you casting
Yeah, well, I'll
jigs?
tell you what. I happen to have them right here. So we out there when we cast, the majority of anglers are using what's called a weapon, and all a weapon is, it's a 2-hook snelled spinner. In fact, I'll take one off and just show it to you. This is what I use.
You're sitting in an airport, Joe. You should probably call it something. You probably need a new name for that.
I'm already through security, so I'm good.
Okay, good.
I'm part of the Trusted Traveler program, right? I'm good.
For now.
So,
Not anymore.
That's a privilege, not a right.
That's true. Oh, well, so is the driver's license, Danny.
Exactly.
So is being on the radio.
Well, that's a right for me and you, not for Brett.
Yeah, all right.
No, just a
Trust me.
privilege.
Anyways,
So here's a weapon, and what it is, it's a snelled spinner, but it's just a, if you guys can see this or not, but it's just a snelled spinner. It's about, it goes up to my shoulder from my hand. So it's, I don't know, a couple feet, I suppose. But, and what we do is, of course, I don't have a blade in there because I got it on my noodle, but we put a blade on there, whatever color blade you want. Normally I'm using a hammer gold, like a number 4 Colorado hammer gold. And then you put if you notice on the loop here, there's a bead. And the reason there's a bead in that loop is because I can take this loop, and I'll take a sinker, and I'll put my egg sinker. I'll put this right through that egg sinker, and I can pull this up, and then that loop keeps that egg sinker tight. And I just take my swivel from my line and put it through that loop there. And now I can take this with a night crawler on it, and I can cast this out, and I can let it sink to the bottom. I can let it sink 10 feet below the surface, wherever I think those fish are at, and then I'll work that spinner back to in a sweeping motion. Well, if those charter boats drifting one way, I'll cast upwind, I'll let it sink to where I want it, then I'll work it back in a nice motion, swimming it back, letting it drop subtly. Once in a while, I'll let that sinker bang the bottom. It's like a dinner bell for those walleyes. Lift it up, pull it forward. Sometimes I shake it a little bit. Whatever I can do to get those fish to eat. A lot of times when you're drifting with it, once you spin it around, that boat turn and boom, when that lure changes direction, that's when you get a bite a lot of times. But nonetheless, it was a tough bite. Those guys have been smashing walleyes all year long, like stupid, crazy good. Not as many big fish, but a lot of fish. And it just so happened the last couple weeks, I think, with water temps getting up there a little bit, those walleyes gotten a little tougher to catch. Yet when you stop the boat and look at or not stop the boat, but when you're driving your boat looking at your screen, there's freaking fish everywhere. But you're also catching catfish, sheephead, you catch your walleyes, catch white perch, yellow perch. What else we catch? And some of those catfish we catch, you guys, are huge. I mean, we're not huge, but I mean, you're setting the hook and you're pulling a 10-pound catfish. It's very, very common.
You think you're winning the tournament?
Yes, you don't want catfish when fishing a walleye tournament.
Right. We've been there.
Oh yeah, I know. But boy, they're prevalent, and of course, sheephead gets huge, and you want to. Yeah, you want to get them in and out as quick as you can, so you get after the good fish. But just interesting, right? They're different.
Well, it's interesting. What's interesting to me is I don't know how many boats are in this tournament, but how do you enforce the no trolling rule? Are there boats out there watching?
Yeah, there is. And there's 29 boats in the tournament, and in this one there was, and there's boats all over the place, and nobody has trolling gear on. You know what? Boats are checked before you take off and everything else. And in order to troll in Lake Erie, you'd have great big double planer boards. You'd have bigger reels, bigger rods.
Oh.
You have a lot of equipment, jet divers, dipsy divers, all that stuff.
Gross.
You just don't have that stuff on the boat. You can tell it's all casting rods.
That's no fun anyway. That stuff's no fun in my opinion. I don't like doing that anyway. But all right, Joe. Well, that sounds like I'm sure it was a fun trip for you anyway. Even if
I'll tell you, when I got my captain's license out there, you develop friendships, and if I wouldn't go back and fish that tournament, which I look at it as a real privilege. It's the Demeter's tournament. Dave Demeter was a longtime charter captain that started this, and now his son DJ takes it over, and but it's a privilege to fish this tournament. It's almost like bragging rights for the western basin of Lake Erie, at least for the casters. And I had to be able to be invited to this. I guided on Lake Erie. I think I told you that, Brett, for a couple years, and good to stay in touch with friends, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it was a fun time, and glad you made it back to Minnesota safely through the Trusted Traveler program. And
I guess I better not be talking about my weapons.
Right. looking forward to seeing you up at Lake of the Woods here in about a month or so. Probably we'll be up there right around the end of August. So I'm excited for that. And then if people want to plan a trip there to finish summer off, or maybe start thinking about a fall shiner run on the Rainy River, or even an ice fishing trip this winter, what should they do, Joe?
The bite has been on. Hey, check out our website. It's lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Macaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com.